Okay, I've started the recording.
All right, so let's call to order the Clark County Veterans Advisory Board on this Thursday afternoon, June 10th, 2021. It's a cloudy day with a little sunshine here and there, so we're moving into summer. That's a good sign. We got the flag up, so if everybody would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, we appreciate that. All right, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of
of
the
the United States of America
and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
under God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
justice for
justice
all.
for all.
All right, there we go. Is there anybody so inclined on here today to do the invocation for us, please? Anybody? How about you, Bruce?
Let's all bow our heads, please.
Thank you.
O sovereign ruler of the universe and the Lord of all hosts, would you please bless us this afternoon and during the deliberations of our meeting and help us guide us to the principles of which we all uphold within this organization. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Bruce. All right, let's do roll call, or however Bruce is handling that, to see who's here and who's not here.
All right, roll call of members. Post 48, Morris Giesler. Steve Sledgers. American Legion Post 14, Jean Cortrain.
Excused.
Alternate Dixie Hoteling. American Legion Post 44, Darren Wirtz. John Rose. Legion Post 168, Amboy, no representation. American Legion Post 176, Michael Gibson. I know he's here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Les Schreiber. American Veterans Post number 6, John Lovejoy. Dennis Pratt. DAV Chapter 4, Board Secretary Bruce Moss here. The Marine War Vets 321, no representation. Marine Corps League 826, Steve Sledgers. John Stoffel. VFW Post 4278, primary Shannon Roberts.
Excused.
Dana Difford, alternate.
Also excused.
Yeah. VFW Post 7824, Board Vice Chair Michael Harding.
Yep.
VFW Post 12028, David Daly. Vietnam Veterans Chapter 512, Greg Whitsett. Nick Herber. Members at large, Board Chair Kelly Jones.
Here.
Jim Jensen. Michael Langsdorf. Oh, Jim's here. Michael Langsdorf. Kevin Lawson.
Excused.
Brian McGillis. Tanya Ward.
Here. Looks
Clark
like
County
Brian is here also.
Okay.
Brian McGillis is here.
Clark County Representative Samantha Whitley.
I'm here.
And I see Judy Russell and Shannon Tyre from the Assistance Center is here.
Correct.
Yep.
And will our guests please introduce themselves as part of the roll?
Good afternoon. I'm Judge Kristen Parcher, Clark County District Court.
Thank you for joining us, Your Honor.
Thank you for having us.
And
Hi, everyone. I'm Beth Robinson. I'm the coordinator for Clark County Veterans Board.
All right. Thank you, Beth. Is there anybody else?
Hi, I'm Andy Lexo, the Veterans Engagement Specialist with Lifeline Connections.
Oh, yeah. Could you speak up a little bit? We couldn't quite hear you, but we got your name.
I'm the new Veterans Engagement Specialist with Lifeline Connections.
Okay. We got you. That's all we have for today, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Bruce. All right, moving right along. Approval of the May 13th, 2021 minutes. Did anybody see anything suspicious or that needed to be changed or whatever? If not, I'll take a motion to approve as written. Somebody want
I second the motion.
Okay.
I second the motion.
I missed the first one, but did you get those, Sam?
I got Tanya.
All right, Tanya can be. Hey, you know what? I'm going to make a motion to approve. So I'll make the motion and Tanya can second it.
I second it. Yep.
All right, there we go. All right.
We're all in favor, I'm sure.
So we don't have a presentation, but we have visitors. Is Judge or Beth, you guys
Yes.
making a presentation today? Then I'm looking at the slides. I'm trying to get caught up here.
Yes, we do have a presentation. We don't have a slideshow presentation, but we will be doing a presentation. And so whenever you're ready, we can start with Beth is going to kind of give us some background about the court.
All right, go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having us here today. I actually had the privilege of coming and speaking to the board a couple of years ago, and in some areas we've made a lot of progress. In other areas we're still working, so we welcome the chance to give you an update today. I am going to try to screen share something, and I'm not really used to this format, so we'll see if I can bring it up here. Okay, so can you see something that says Justice for Vets? I don't know if you're seeing that or not.
The
You
full
can see
screen,
that?
we can see it, but the full screen needs to come up, please.
Okay, yeah, I am definitely having an issue here. Can somebody talk me through it possibly?
Oh, I think it looks good. I think you just need to zoom in. The text is really small when you share it, but we can see the document.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, is that any better?
Yeah, maybe even just another time.
Yeah. How about that?
It's pretty good for me.
It's good for me.
Okay, well, I'm not going to read this word for word to you, but I wanted to give you some information on what our Veterans Therapeutic Court is based on. It's based on the 10 key components of Veterans Treatment Courts. And Veterans Treatment Courts actually started back in 2008 in Buffalo, New York. Our court's been around since 2011. And we really see our Veterans Court as the intersection of justice and treatment. So our court is not a punitive court. Our goal is not to throw people in jail. Instead, we are trying to get veterans into treatment and get them through the system. So we take a team approach. If you look at the second key component, it talks about a non-adversarial approach. So regardless of what your role is on the team, we're all working together for the veterans' benefit. And just to introduce you to our team, in addition to the judge, we have a defense attorney, we have a VJO, Veterans Justice Outreach Specialist from the VA on our team. We have a representative from the prosecutor's office, a representative from the city attorney's office, a probation officer, and then I'm there as a coordinator as well. The third component is that we try to identify people early to get them into the court. That's one area where we fall short, and we're hoping that maybe the board will have some ideas or direction for us on this. One thing we're finding is a lot of people don't identify as a veteran when they're first brought into the criminal justice system. So we're looking for ways that we can make that connection with people early on. Our VJO, Matt Burge, used to go into the jail constantly, and with COVID, that kind of put a crimp in our style. We haven't been able to do some of the things we would normally do. But I'm happy to say I just found out today that the jail is reopening to professional visitors. So I'm hoping that we can get Matt back in there to make those first connections with veterans. And what I would encourage is if any of you are involved with a veteran who has a connection to the criminal justice system and who is looking for more information on the Veterans Court, please feel free to send them to us at any time. So just going briefly, through the components, you can see there's a lot of information here about treatment, whether it's alcohol and drug treatment, mental health, or other things that veterans need, such as employment, housing, and things of that nature. We are an abstinence court, so even though alcohol and marijuana are legal in this state, people cannot use them while they're in the court. And we test for those substances as well as other illegal substances. A coordinated strategy governs Veterans Treatment Court responses to participants' compliance. What that means is when people are doing well, we reward them. When people aren't doing well, we sanction them, but our sanction always is first a treatment response. So we're trying to find out what a person needs as far as treatment goes to help change their behavior. Sometimes we have to look at other means of sanctions. So we start out with something as simple as a written assignment. We may have people do community service or work crew time. We send people to pro-social events in the community, which, although we may call it a sanction sometimes, we're really looking to get veterans connected to things that are happening in the community that will benefit them, because we want to put a structure in place for people and help them build their support system so that when they graduate, they're ready to go on their own and they don't need anyone holding their hand anymore. Ongoing judicial interaction with each veteran is essential. One of the things that treatment courts have learned is that the interactions that our veterans have with the judge is so important to their success. And there's even, studies have even found that there is like a time frame. So if a judge has a minimum interaction with a person of 3 minutes during court, it can reap big benefits. So you may think 3 minutes doesn't sound like much time. A judge may tell you if she's up on the bench and has to talk to someone for 3 minutes, it seems like a longer period of time than it does to us. But that's really a short period of time to have such a big impact. And then monitoring and evaluation measure the achievement of program goals, engage effectiveness. So we want to do what works. Continuing interdisciplinary education promotes effective veterans treatment court planning, implementation, and operations. And one of the things that our court just did about a month or so ago was attend a 2-day training program that is helping us kind of steer the direction our court is going. And we came up with an action plan from that treatment. So we're always learning, we're always trying to make the court better. And the last key component is really where the board comes in, because it's about forging partnerships. A veterans court isn't something that we can do on our own. We have to have the support of people in the community. And for us being able to come here today, this is a way to reach out to a lot of different people that we might not otherwise have the ability to meet. Okay, good. I'm finally out of screen sharing. So that's a little background about veterans courts in general. But to tell you a little bit about our court, we've been around since 2011. And when we started out, we had a grant and it allowed us to serve veterans that had alcohol or drug issues or a co-occurring disorder, which would mean that there was also a mental health issue. But if a person didn't have an alcohol or drug problem, we couldn't help them at that time. And it was unfortunate because what we were seeing is there were a lot of veterans with PTSD or other mental health issues. And that was really kind of driving the behavior that got them involved in the criminal justice system. But because of the limitations of our grant, we couldn't bring those people into the court. The grant lasted about 3 years and they had a bit of an extension because they didn't spend all the money. But once the grant was over, we were allowed to bring in people then with just mental health issues. So that helped kind of widen the base of people we could serve, which I think was really helpful. Another eligibility requirement we had is that the person had to be eligible to receive services through the VA. And this was really important when we started out the court because we wanted to be able to tell the community, we are able to have this court without it costing the county anything additional to run it, because the people were already eligible for services at the VA. And what we're finding out now is that sometimes that's a barrier. There are veterans who may be just great candidates for this court, and we're not able to serve them because of our eligibility requirements. So that again is something that we're going to be looking at. In the past, for several years, we had a veteran mentor program in place. And veteran mentors are just one of the greatest things I've seen in Veterans Court, because they provide support and encouragement to the veterans. Unfortunately, that program fell apart at some point, and we don't have that going right now, but Judge is going to talk about what some of our plans are for the future there. And then in June of 2019, we changed our focus a little bit because Judge and I both work for Clark County District Court, and District Court handles misdemeanor cases. It's a court of limited jurisdiction. So anyone with a felony case was not eligible for Veterans Court. In 2019, the prosecutor's office approached us and said, in mental health court, we've been very successful bringing in felony cases on a pre-plea basis. And what that means is if a person successfully completes the program, their charge is dismissed and it's not on their record. And that is just a huge benefit to anyone, but especially to our veterans. So basically, for any charge that's approved, we can bring it in on a pre-plea basis unless it's a DUI. And the reason for that is DUI cases have mandatory minimum sentencing. So there's not really a workaround for that. But again, this was just a huge benefit. So the prosecutor's office acts as sort of a gatekeeper for the program. And they look at potential applicants, and they look at their current charge, their prior criminal history. Are they a veteran? Is there an alcohol and drug problem and or a mental health problem that connects to the crime that was committed? How does the victim feel about bringing the person into a specialty court? Is there any restitution involved? They look at all these questions and then they make a determination on whether or not we can screen a person for the court. So once we get that referral, we start our screening process and we do a risk needs assessment because we're looking to bring high risk, high needs people into the court. We don't want to use resources on people that are lower risk or have lower needs, because it's been shown that giving people too many services and bringing them into a court setting like that with frequent court appearances can actually make things worse for them. So we're trying to target the right population. And again, the important thing about all this is the person can have their charge dismissed once they complete the program, which is great. So what does our court look like today? Today we have 9 participants in the court. I would love to tell you that we have more, but COVID kind of took a hit on us. For a while, we weren't able to screen anyone or bring them in. In fact, for quite a while, we didn't even have court. If you saw the picture that Samantha had put up earlier, it was a picture of the most recent graduation in our court. And that veteran completed the entire court under COVID restrictions. He never came to court in person until the day he graduated, which isn't the best way for us to do business. We are a court that loves to get together. Our veterans have more camaraderie than any of the other therapeutic courts I work with. They give each other so much support, and to not be able to meet in person and have that has been just a real loss for us. So right now, as I said, we have 9 participants, but we're constantly trying to grow the court. It takes a minimum of 12 months to complete the court. So it's not an easy program. The court's divided into 4 phases, and there are certain benchmarks people have to meet before they can move up to the next phase. So we look at things like the amount of time they're spending in the phase, the amount of court sobriety time they have with no positive drug tests, the amount of time they have without a sanction before we can move them up to the next phase. So you don't get through the court by just coming in, sitting there, and spending the time. You actually have to work to get through the court. And for a lot of people, it's probably easier to sit in jail than to go through the court. So the people who've made it through the court have really accomplished something great in my eyes. We use incentives and sanctions to help people, and I talked about that a little bit before. So when I say incentives, we're looking at recognizing the positive things that people do. So sometimes it's as easy as giving a person a round of applause when they've done something great that we can recognize. And again, we kind of miss that because we have court by Zoom right now. And you know, we can unmute and all clap like this, but it's not the same as having a courtroom that's just erupting in applause. So that's one of the things that I missed during the time of COVID. We also have different things we give people. We recognize them weekly if they're in compliance. And when people came to court in person, we had a fishbowl and they could draw something out of the fishbowl. And it might be that they get a round of applause, positive feedback from another team member. We also have different incentives that we hand out, and they come to our office and can pick from a box of goodies that we have. Sometimes it's a gift card. So we're looking at those positive things as well. Again, I think the camaraderie is the thing I love most about this court. And even though we're meeting in Zoom, we still see it sometimes. It's great to hear our veterans support each other. But I am looking forward to the day when we can get back together in person. And I think that day is coming probably sooner than I think. Just seems like it's been a long time. But I would like to invite anybody who's here on the board to come observe. We can send you a Zoom invitation. You can come in person if you'd like and watch that way. So if anyone's ever interested, please reach out to me and I would be happy to let you know when court is and get you set up to do that, because you'll get a much different picture when you watch in person than have me talk about it. Okay, and Judge, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Beth, for that good background. Thanks again, everyone, for having us. I did want to talk a little bit more about what we're looking at and developing, kind of reestablishing our mentor program, because we're really hoping that something might kind of pique your interest as you listen to us talk today about some ideas. Just a little background, I've only been presiding over Veterans Court since January, so this is new to me as well. So I'm kind of learning as we go in a lot of ways, but I've had opportunities to cover it in the past. So we're modeling what we'd like our mentor program to be on best practices that are promulgated by the NADCP, which is the National Association of Drug Court Professionals. Specifically, they have a division called Justice for Vets that was established in 2010. Beth mentioned that our team just recently did some training, and that was through the Justice for Vets. I really encourage folks to look at their website. They have really interesting information, not only about the mentor programs, but the courts, veterans courts in general. You know, we're really focusing on Leave No Veteran Behind and programs that support that. They just can't say enough about how critical mentor programs are to Veterans Court. It's just a really important piece that we're missing currently. The mentors are there to engage, encourage, and empower their mentees to support positive change. And we want our mentors to be comprised of current or prior service members, because those folks, they're familiar with the relationship dynamics between veterans and their families. They have some shared experience. They understand kind of cultural nuances that are unique to veterans. And they really appreciate the warrior ethos. And those are all things that, you know, only folks that have been through it can really help support our veterans and understand. Part of the program requirements are that we have a mentor coordinator to recruit, train, and supervise, and to help pair mentors with our participants. The Justice for Vets does provide online training for that. I actually just recently did that for the mentor piece. They also have training specific to the mentor coordinator. So again, if you kind of have a thought about how it might work with any of your organizations or somebody in mind, that's a really great place to kind of direct them to. I know there's other trainings as well. I know Ms. Work just did the Veteran Peer Support Specialist Program training through NAMI. I'm really interested to talk to you about that training as well. So I appreciate you sharing that you did it and that was really effective, because that's something else that we can take a look at. We've also had a chance to talk to Ms. Whitley about you know, ideas on where we're going to house our veteran coordinator or mentor coordinator. You know, we talked about the Veterans Assistance Center. We can also talk, Ms. Work, maybe, you know, connections with PIC and some good places where that might be housed in order to kind of have maximum, contact and ability to recruit new mentors. As we're developing that program, in the meantime, we've been working with Reach 2, and that's an organization here, and they're helping us to set up some veteran-specific support circles. So they're an organization, they support all of our other therapeutic treatment courts, including drug court, substance abuse court, felony drug court, and mental health court. They provide support circles as well as a lot of pro-social activities. They're really committed and excited to help us by doing some trainings to help develop veteran-specific support circles to support us that way. So that's something that we're kind of looking forward to developing pretty soon. Hopefully, we're going to start probably with a focus group of recent graduates as well as our current participants and things that might help them. They came and observed Josh Kennedy, who we showed the picture of graduating. They came and observed his graduation. And Beth had to swear that we didn't prompt one of our participants, but he was sharing that he really enjoys court and being able to have that support. And it's a little easier to share even in court with me and everyone else there than it is sometimes with their other sobriety meetings and support meetings. And so it was kind of just fortunate that we had them there to hear that it is really something that we need to start doing. We had a bunch of our veterans happen to go in to do their UAs at the same time at Lifeline. And all of them reached out to either probation or Beth, and they were so excited to see each other, even for this short period of time, just providing UA. So, I mean, obviously, it's a real need for us. So we're going to keep working with them. And at least, in the meantime, we're going to work, to get more veteran-centered support. We're going to, hopefully have some recent graduates that we can help kind of recruit as mentors as well. Justice for Vets advises that you don't have anyone act as a mentor until they're at least 9 months out of the program, just to make sure that they're stable and doing well before you start kind of involving them with the other folks in court. So anyway, if anything's just kind of ringing a bell, please reach out. You're welcome to reach out to me personally or to Beth about any ideas of folks that you might know that might be interested, just anything that kind of rings a bell. We really appreciate your input on that. Just briefly, so we can get out of your hair, I did want to talk about our expanding eligibility a little bit as well. So as Beth mentioned, currently and how we were originally set up is everyone goes to the VA. Our VJO really believes that the VA provides the best services. It's really important that treatment providers be trauma informed, especially for veterans. There's some really specific training that goes around that. So anything that we do expand to other treatment agencies, we'll keep that in mind. But one of the things, there are some limitations on VA eligibility based on income and time served, as well as the type of discharge. And when we did our recent training with Justice for Vets, they talked about kind of other reasons why folks that might not be VA eligible might be good candidates. And, they gave the example of someone who at boot camp was actually really severely injured and couldn't continue on, but really identified with that group of people. And so they didn't have the time in to be VA eligible. Or talk about people too that, that experienced trauma and maybe turned to drugs and alcohol or had some mental health issues that resulted in a dishonorable discharge. But it was behavior that was resulting from the same types of things that we're trying to treat. And so there might be places where it's just appropriate to at least be able to screen those people if they're appropriate for our court. And so because they may not be VA eligible, we are talking to other service providers to potentially be able to expand our program to accept a few more folks who might not be VA eligible. We have one participant right now who income related, he's self-pay treatment, and that's working out fine, but we really need somebody who we can coordinate with really directly with the court. So anyway, Beth, if there's anything I missed, feel free to pipe in. We've taken up a lot of your time, so I don't want to talk too much longer, except that I would really love for you to come observe sometime. We do have another graduation at the end of June, and we'd love folks to be available for that. What date would that be, Beth?
It looks like it's June 22nd.
Okay, so June 22nd, we have John Toe, who's just doing great, getting ready to graduate from Clark. And anyway, if there's anyone who'd like to participate, let Beth know.
Okay, and I apologize. It's Monday, June 21st at
Oh my
10
gosh.
a.m.
I was going to say the 26th, so I'm glad you have a calendar in front of you. But anyway, really look forward to meeting folks, especially in person. And please feel free to reach out to me or Beth if you have any ideas or questions, anything else related to Veterans Course. So thank you.
No, thanks. I have actually been to Vet Court. I had a good friend graduate from there a couple of years ago. He's doing really well. It's just like he's a different guy.
Does he want to be a mentor?
Well, I just took notes on that because I recall Jeff Talbot from Clean Street and I having a discussion with him about doing that. And, initially it was kind of like, but I will revisit that with him and see where he stands on that because I think he'd be a good mentor and I think it's something he should do. I mean, just because our service ends doesn't mean it ends. I mean, we still have a responsibility to those veterans in our community to help them out any way we can. But Vet Court, man, I can't say enough good things about that. I mean, I was just blown away being in court that day. And like Beth said, just the excitement. And it was an older lady that day that was graduating.
I remember her. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but
she was just awesome. I mean, it was so cool to just, hear her journey and how she got to that point and how she overcame it. And I hope she's still doing, good. But it was exciting being there. So it's important work. I guess, I was glad to hear you say something about the eligibility requirements because I had wondered about that early on because many of our veterans unfortunately get out with OTHs and dishonorable because they get DUIs or they do drugs or whatever, and that is from trauma, from combat deployments or what have you. And the other thing is many of them are super skeptical about going to the VA again for their mental health. They'll look out for any other way to go, get mental health treatment without going to the VA. I'm a user of the VA. I'm a big advocate of it. I haven't personally used mental health other than for some sleep issues, but I know mental health providers there, so I can guarantee you they're top-notch, people, and it's a good route to encourage them to do that. I guess we have Andy on here from Lifeline. I guess my question is, I know Clean Street is hooked in with you guys. Jeff has been for quite some time. Like Rainier Springs. I mean, Beth, are you guys, I'm assuming you're connected with all of them that have a veteran component to their mental health facilities, right?
So I would say that I am connected with Rainier Springs and I've been there before and I didn't realize that they had a veteran component. So
okay.
I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's been something that's coming. I don't know how full blown it is at the moment. I just know that Larissa was working on that and they have, God, I've forgotten his name. He's a Navy veteran. But he handles basically specifically all the veterans that come into Rainier. So we might want to just revisit that because I know we had several at Clean Street that we sent through Rainier and then they came back to Clean Street. And then, some of them did better than others, unfortunately. But again, that's just another area that we could tap into and just make sure that we are getting as many of them into the court as we can. But just Judge, thanks for joining us today. I know you guys are super busy, but thanks for all you're doing for our veterans. It is admirable and honorable work. And when I got here and learned about Vet Court, I was so excited to hear that something like that existed because a lot of our veterans just need a break. They didn't get a break on active duty for some really crappy leaders sometimes. And this makes a difference when you guys believe in them and support them and stand behind them no matter what. And if they make one mistake, it's not the end of the world and they're not persecuted for it. Because sometimes in the military they are. And so that is what makes the difference on how they discharge and their feelings toward all of that and whether, they're willing to get better or not. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you both very much and everybody else that's involved in vet court. It's a wonderful thing.
All right, well, thank you so much. And thanks for your support, all the things that all of you do in the community. And we look forward to working with you more and getting to know you more as we move forward.
Awesome. Does anybody else have questions for either Beth or the judge?
Well, Beth, I was wondering if that link to the graduation could be freely shared or if it's kind of a sign up. I don't know if you want me to send that out to the whole board. Or...
Sure, I can send it to you, Samantha, and you can send it out to the whole board. It's open court. Even though it's on Zoom, it's still open court. So we welcome anyone. And I have to apologize. I don't know what I'm looking at here today. I've just been having one of those days. The actual date, and I swear this time I'm right, is June 28th. It is the 4th Monday in June. So I apologize. And Kelly, I think I know the veteran you're talking about who was connected with Clean Street. And I actually had talked to him a few months ago about something else. So sounds like I need to maybe reach out to him again.
Yeah, it's Joseph.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely do that. And I will, tag him today too. So, and pull my Sergeant Major card and say, hey, this is something you need to do.
And I promise if people come observe, I'm not gonna, corner everyone and ask them to be a mentor either. I'm just
But now it's always on our mind.
Yeah.
Perfectly okay. I think more of us, really probably need to step forward and do something like this. And I didn't realize there was mentorship training, so I will take a look at that and I will send it out to a couple other people and I encourage all of us to get involved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today. I know you guys are busy, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. Mike Gibson, you're up. Mike? If you're speaking, take off your mute.
Okay.
There you go.
I have 2 mutes I have to take off. Last month, there were no appeals.
Okay,
There was one appeal last week, but I didn't see anybody else respond to it yet.
Well, I know I got that, and I'm not on the appeals committee, but I certainly could have responded to it. I see Kevin responded that even though it didn't meet eligibility, he was of the mind to approve it. So,
Okay. Well, I voted to disapprove it due to the lack of necessary documentation.
Okay. The center want to weigh in on that? What documentation was needed or was missing?
It was an appeal for a veteran whose car needed repaired, but the registration was in his wife's name.
Oh, that's
But
right.
they had applied to put his name on the registration, but it hadn't come through yet. So, and he needed to get the vehicle repaired. So that was what the appeal was for. I got 2 approvals and 1 denial. So it was approved.
Okay. All right. So do you have something else, Mike?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right. No policies and procedures, right, Tanya? We're good for that for a while, unless anybody has any concerns about anything that's popped up recently. If not, then we'll move on to Samantha.
Can I ask a quick question? Mike,
Sure.
would you prefer that we reply all when we give a comment on an appeal?
Yeah, that would be helpful to all persons concerned.
Understood. Thanks.
Okay, one thing that I'll mention as far as the policies and procedures that I talked to Judy about earlier is she was saying that our policies say that for burial assistance, it looks like it's for the veteran only. But if we read the state law, It's the veteran and their family members. So Judy had suggested that we needed burial assistance for spouses or children, and I totally agree with her. And it's in the law that we do that. So I'll just make sure our policies and procedures reflect that, and Judy can go ahead and help people with other burial. It's not just for the veteran.
Hey,
But
Sam,
yes.
is that for adult children or just minor children? What's the definition of children?
You know, I can look into exactly what the law says. I would guess it's maybe like 18. What our current policies are for kids is 18 and younger, unless they're in school, and then they can be up to 22 or 23. So I would think that might be similar, because when the veteran is responsible for their child's burial expenses would be when I would think we would want to pay it.
Well, is it safe to assume that if it's a child that's in need of constant care, an adult child, it could be, you know, a 30-year-old, but is in need of constant care because, you know, forgive me if I don't have an example, but like cerebral palsy or something to that effect.
I
where
would
they're-
think so if they're still independent.
Right, yeah.
I'll make sure that part is clarified too, as well in our policies, because I think that would be, if the veteran is still caring for their child, regardless of the age, that would make sense to me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
So in April, the Veterans Assistance Center served 23 veterans through the fund. Now, that's not to say that's the total number of veterans they served. They've been super busy, but the fund only paid out $13,591 to 23 veteran households. There were 5 denials. There were 5 veterans year to date that have been helped to escape homelessness, and 3 of those were just in April. So that was a bit of an uptick for homelessness assistance. The demographic showed 36 men were in the center, 10 women were assisted. 116 veterans visited to the center for meals or resources. There were 99 meals served, and they fielded, if the report is correct, which it's always been correct, so I'm assuming this number is correct, I bolded it, 1,246 phone calls and emails. And I'm sure Judy will speak to that. I'm sure it's related to the rental assistance program that's going on.
Yep.
So they had 324 volunteer hours, which is a total of $8,000 in value that was donated to the center in April. And our dental program saw 1 veteran. They received an exam, x-rays, and some extractions. The value of service was $1,001, and the free clinic billed us $822 for their program costs for this month. And then our fund report, we received the property taxes in April. So we got a big bump, $277,807 came in from property taxes. We had expenses of $7,163, which was not really our expenses. We then record the center's April billing, I don't think, in that expense. So it'll show up on the report in the next month. But our balance at the end of April was $970,064. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Oh, I'm up. Yay. So everybody just heard Sam's report, and everybody just heard our whopping balance of over $900,000. And of course, that might have fluctuated a little bit, as she indicated, but it's still a lot of money sitting there. So we had a discussion last week with Judy about coming up with some funding proposals, because all of us on here know that if we're not using this money at a consistent rate, and I get a lot of it was due to COVID, now some of it's due to the grant money, and that money is paying for other things. But the bottom line is the county's going to be like, well, if you don't need that much money, maybe we take some money from you. So our hope is that, and I'm gonna basically let Judy spearhead this, because this is the money is needed to support the center. So while I was involved in the discussion and I have some thoughts on it, this is basically, a lot of this is coming from Judy and what she thinks the center needs. And I would agree with quite a bit of it that they need it. So Judy, if you're prepared to talk about some of this, if you would go ahead, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, some of the things that we had talked about, the center could certainly use a full-time homeless outreach staff person. That person would be out in the field, visiting the homeless camps, contacting the homeless on the street, or working with other homeless providers to contact more homeless veterans. We see a lot of them at the center, but there's also a lot of them that we don't see. And so if we had a full-time person or even a part-time person that could go out and reach out to them, I think that would be a helpful thing. Um, a lot of times they're in a situation where they can't get around very well. We know that there's several homeless veterans in Vancouver, in downtown Vancouver, who are in wheelchairs, and we see them, but they don't come to the center unless they can get a ride or unless they can get someone to bring them. So if we could reach out to them and help them with services, that would be one of the duties of the homeless outreach staff person. One of the things I wanted to talk about also is that right now we are using a lot of the TRAP funding for rental assistance. Instead of using the fund, there is the state and federal program for housing assistance, which allows us to pay up to 12 months of back rent or a total of 12 months of rent. It can be 9 months back rent and 3 months forward, or it can be 12 months back rent. That has saved us money in the fund, which is a blessing on one hand, but on another hand, it's a curse because we don't want to lose that money. We don't want the county to say, hey, you guys don't need this much money, because we do. There are veterans out there that need help every single day. So one of the other things that I have asked for is that we be able to purchase additional stand down clothing. Last year or the year before, we received lots of donations of jeans and t-shirts and sweatshirts and things like that that we always pass out at the stand down. But in the last year, because of COVID, we didn't accept any of those donations. So we actually are very bare when it comes to clothing for the stand down, and actually clothing that if the homeless guys come to the center and they need a jacket or they need a pair of jeans, or maybe they just got out of jail and they don't have any clothes, then we usually have clothes there that we can assist them. But because we didn't get any donations this past year, and also Costco did not have their Heroes Night, we always got lots of brand new jeans and t-shirts and socks and underwear and everything through the Costco Heroes Night. And whatever we picked out, Costco would help us get those things. And we didn't get that this year. So COVID really put a crimp in our donations. And that was why we're asking for additional money to be able to buy those clothing, basically jeans, t-shirts, sweats, things like that.
Hey, Judy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So you put in your request to me the stand down clothing, and then I added in myself without even talking to you about the outreach supplies, because I was thinking if you had an outreach coordinator, they would want to take with them hygiene kits and socks and things to kind of hand out to the folks that they're meeting. And so I don't know if you had thought of that or if you wanted to consider upping that budget a little bit for supplies for that purpose.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's a great idea, Sam. And I had not considered it, but that's a fabulous idea because you're right. If we send a person out and they're running into homeless people, those vets are going to need clothing and toiletries and the things that we would give them from the center. So yes, that's an excellent idea, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And that would probably bump that $4,000 budget to at least 6 or 7 if we had
Yes.
if we had supplies for outreach. And at this time, we have never been able to purchase any tents because we've never had the money for it. So tents are something, and we've never been able to get them from DOD either. So that's something that's kind of spendy. But if we have the money to purchase some tents for the homeless vets, that would be an ideal addition to that money.
Maybe 10,000 request on that line item.
Yes, that would be amazing, totally amazing. And we certainly would be able to help the vets with it. So the third item on there says increase wages for current staff. That I put that figure in. That's not really a wage increase. It's just a little bonus bump because with all the work they're doing, I have CSOs that are coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning and staying sometimes till 5 o'clock at night. And everyone is doing extra work. And it's not all fund related, but it's all veteran related. Um, a lot of it is paperwork from the TRAP funding for rental assistance. And while that is saving us money in our fund, it's still work that we're all doing. And they've just upped the paperwork portion. We were having to upload one form into HMIS, and now we're having to upload 3 forms into HMIS. And also, everything has to be entered into the homeless management information system, which takes a lot of time, as I'm sure you know, Sam. When you're entering an HMIS, it's all very detailed, and you have to make sure you get it all right because every agency looks at it. So that was the reason that I put that $12,000 in there. I really feel like they've earned it and they continue to earn it. And over a year's time, which is how long this program will run, it would work out to be about less than $3 an hour for a little bonus. The last thing that I put in there was to hire another full-time veteran service officer through the WDVA. We have one now, and that's Diane, and she is working herself crazy. The phones are ringing off the hook. As you've seen from the numbers, we fielded over 1,200 phone calls, and it's even more so now this month. It's crazy. The phones are just ringing all the time, and she is taking a lot of phone calls. She's fielding basically every call for a veteran service officer. And she told me last week that she took 5 cases home with her and worked until 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night several days last week just to keep up. So we could certainly use another VSO. We could use 2 more VSOs for that matter. So we always have a need. And with the amount of money that the VSOs at our center have gotten for veterans, I'm hopeful that once the center is able to fully open, that I will go back to volunteering a few hours each week and doing American Legion claims like I did before. But basically until then, and even after then, it would be great to have another VSO. So those
Judy,
are Go ahead.
sorry, refresh my memory. Is she full or part-time right now?
She's full-time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
She's every moment, in fact, every moment the center's open, she's there. And as a matter of fact, we just gave her a key and a code so she can be there as much as she wants, because she wasn't, we stop answering the phones at 3:00, but that doesn't mean that everybody's gone at 3:00.
Sure.
So, and we don't start answering the phone in the morning until 8:00, but people are there hours before 8:00. I'm not, but they are. And so I'm very, very proud of my team, and I'm very, very grateful that we have the CSOs that we have, and we have Diane as a VSO. And I can't imagine being able to do all of this without each and every one of them. They're a great team. They're a great bunch of people, and we all work very well together. And I think that you can see with us taking over 1,200 phone calls and assisting so many people that they're doing a great job. So, and
Hey,
I'm
Judy,
sure,
Judy, may I ask a question real quick?
of course.
Is there a record of how much funds the staff gets veterans, or you know what I mean? How much do they help them get awarded? Is there any record of that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the VSOs from the VVA, there was a presentation from Steve Gill that pointed out, I believe last year they got something like $2.6 million for the veterans.
And that's the veterans here in Clark County?
Well, it's the veterans that they do claims for. Not all of them are from Clark County, but most of them are.
Okay.
Because if they're from other counties, they typically go to a service officer in their own county.
Right.
So, yeah, so most of that would be definitely Clark County veterans. That's a huge amount of money that our veterans wouldn't have had otherwise. So, and then I'm sure that you all probably have ideas of how the center can assist veterans in a further way. I know Sharon's on here. I don't know if Sharon has any more thoughts on any of this or any additional thoughts, but we want to be able to do everything and anything that we can to help these vets. We've racked our brains about how can we help more? How can we help them better? Um, they deserve it. So if any of you have ideas of any other categories that we should be adding to our policies and procedures, please let us know. And we're looking every day to see what we get requests for, and if there's some way that we can incorporate that into our policies and procedures. So I think that's about it, Kelly. Is there
Okay,
any?
I think Mike Gibson had a question.
Okay.
Yeah, Judy.
Yeah.
Do we still have 2 veteran service officers from the VFW housed at the Vancouver VA?
Mike, some days I would say yes, and most days I would say no.
So we don't know what they're doing and how successful they are in helping vets and all that.
No, we know that we get a lot of complaints about them. A lot. And we've had many VFW people come to us and say, hey, I tried to get an appointment down at the hospital and I couldn't get an appointment. they wouldn't do my claim over the phone, or they dropped the ball and I'm still waiting. I mean, there's been numerous complaints about, and I'm sure it's not about the individuals. It's probably more about the process because of COVID. It's not easy, for them to take all that information and do it in the computer. Then they leave the paperwork. The client comes to the front door, signs the paperwork. We make him a copy, and then they file it. So they're on the phone with each client, sometimes an hour plus, just trying to do it on the phone. So again, I'm sure that it's not a complaint against the individuals as much as it is the process, but we have had lots of complaints. So, and we truly don't really know how many people they have there, or if they have anyone at this point.
Could we task somebody to reach out to them to get that information?
Of course, we've I'll have someone do it. It's just we've been really swamped, so we haven't
Hey,
done
Judy,
any.
I can take that. I can take that.
And
That would be awesome if you could do that. I would appreciate that so much.
Yeah, because this is a problem that has been ongoing even before COVID, because
Yes.
even before COVID, there was a staffing issue, and they just didn't have enough caseworkers for the amount of veterans that they had coming in. Because when I would drive the golf cart at the VA campus, I'd hear so many complaints about the lack of resources and a lack of availability and a lack of appointments from them, and so I would just direct them to your office, or to the center.
Right.
So this is something that that has been ongoing, and COVID may be an explanation as to why things are done over the phone exclusively now, but it does not address the issue that's been ongoing for quite some time. And so I'll see what I can do to find some answers out.
I thank you for that, Mike. And I agree with you. It has not only been since COVID. And that's why I said we could use another full-time person. We could use 2 more full-time people, because there is a great need out there. And we hopefully are helping to fill a lot of that need with having the VSOs there at the center. People seem to be very happy with them and their work, and Diane is very conscientious, and they are in the process of hiring and training another person to help her. So if we had another person in addition, that would be great. We'd love that. So.
And Judy, the DAV would like to get back in the Assistance Center. It's been a while since we've been in there helping and assisting veterans, but I will also pass that along to our DAV chapter as well.
Okay. Yeah, let me know. We don't know of any DAV service officers that are doing claims right now. We get asked all the time, and the closest one we're aware of is in Portland.
Okay, well, Chapter 4 is going to be working on getting our members up to speed for VSO work through the DAV. Just give us a little bit of time. We've got training scheduled for next week up in the Kitsap area.
Okay. So, training is great, but it still takes months to get up to speed. So I'm hopeful that would be awesome if we could get a DAV service officer to assist.
Okay, we'll look into that. Thank you.
Thank you. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or try to answer them.
Judy, what I hear you loud and clear that there's a need for an additional service officer, and you said you could actually use 2. What are your thoughts on having 1 full-time and 1 part-time until we can really measure the needs of the assistance center? Because my concern would be to hire 2 full-time caseworkers or service officers, and then down the road not have a need for 2 full-time service officers. So what are your thoughts on having 1 full-time and 1 part-time?
Well, let me just say this. I've been doing claims since 2011,
Okay,
and I could do 10 claims a day, every day, with no problem.
okay.
But of course, I'm not anymore. But um, the need is great. We have Vietnam veterans who are just now filing claims. They've been out of service for 40 years, 50 years, and they're just now coming down with these diseases like Parkinson's and kidney bladder cancer and all these Agent Orange presumptive
The blue
diseases.
water stuff as well, I would imagine.
Yes, and so we definitely I'm all I'm saying is full time and a half time, I'll take it. I'll take whatever you guys will give me. But I would love to have at least 2 full time service officers because the need is absolutely there.
Understood. Thank you.
So Judy,
Yes.
so we still have Raina there, but she's going to retire. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. When is that going to be?
August.
Okay. And she's the CSO right now, correct?
She is a CSO. We also have Mark and we also have Patrick.
Okay. And so Patrick right now is the one who's part-time, correct?
Patrick is almost full time.
Okay.
Rena is part time.
Part-time. So
So
Mark is full-time?
Mark is full time. Yes.
Okay. And so Diane she is contracted out of EVA?
She is contracted with the VVA. Yes. She
Okay.
has nothing to do with the CSOs.
Sure. So, but she is full-time. So I guess, so we're looking at a WDVA hire, which would be for VVA, again, not a CSO. So would it, and I agree that, so as, you know, right now when troops are discharging, their disability is working kind of like clockwork. Unless there's just really big hiccups, it's way, way, way better than it was when I got out in 2012. So, but we also know that we have burn pit issues from the 9/11 generation. So, you know, things are going to ramp up as we get older, and I'm already, you know, showing signs of that. So
Yep.
they're gonna come looking for appeals and everything else. So I agree with you. The need is always going to be there because as the years progress, we're going to start feeling the effects of everything that we were exposed to.
Right.
So if we have Mark and Patrick, and they're both at full time, you would want another CSO to go with them, and then another WDVA hire to augment Diane, correct? So we're looking at 5?
Correct. We're looking,
Okay.
but we have, you see, we have nothing to do really with the VVA contract.
Well, we do because we're paying for it. Not her, but this one.
No, I'm saying the center.
Yeah. Oh no, I get that. I get that.
The CSOs are completely different than what the VSOs.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that is, you would want 3 CSOs for the center. That's what we're looking at, basically.
Correct.
3 full-time okay.
Yes.
So I don't see an issue with that. I don't, that's not in your figures here though, right?
Well, it is because it's a full-time homeless outreach staff.
Okay, so they would be doing outreach and CSO stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Are you sure you want to do that?
Well,
because those are 2 big full-time jobs. So
right.
I guess that's my question. If that homeless outreach individual is out on the street, then they're not doing much CSO work, right?
Well, right now, here's what I have. I have Pat. He's basically full-time. I have Mark. He's full-time. And I have Rena. She's half-time. So when Rena retires, her half-time, I will be able to get a half-time CSO. So I'll still have 2.5 CSOs. Then I want a full-time outreach staff to do the outreach stuff.
No, that's what I'm asking. So let's just let the homeless outreach staff just do that. And then the other CSO that you would want full-time would, you know, I think you ought to look at 2 full-time people.
Okay, I'd
I
love
mean, that's
that.
just my opinion.
Yep.
Because again, the WDVA hires, those are never, guarantees to stick around or do whatever. So at
Right.
least you would always have your 3 or 3.5, however you wanted that, CSO is always on duty, but your outreach, your homeless outreach, I mean, that's a full-time job in and of itself, especially with the
Yes.
TRAP funding. And then the other program, I mean, I just, that's going to be forever. That's never going to
Yes.
get better. So
Yeah, I agree.
I would ask for both, in my opinion. So I would increase, what I'm saying is I would increase the amount and ask for another full-time CSO.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love
And,
that.
and Judy,
Yes.
I am in complete agreement with everything that Kelly just said.
Okay.
It needs to be, because that outreach, that homeless outreach,
Right.
they won't have any time to do anything in the office other than pick up supplies and things like that if they're going to be truly out in the street.
Yep, you're
And
right.
getting belly to belly and face to face with the homeless veterans.
Yes,
And
you're
so
right.
they need to be on the street, and we need somebody else in the office to help those that come in looking for assistance, with claims and things of that nature, burials and whatever the case may be. We need to have an additional person. So I'm in complete agreement that those need to be 2 separate positions that you're seeking, another service officer and then an outreach person.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to weigh in or have thoughts or?
Well, I was just curious, Judy, if you have 3 full offices for 3 county service officers, yeah, if you have the space in the center.
Well, right now, yes, we do. We have 2 offices downstairs and 1 upstairs for the CSOs. So yes, we do have space for 3 full-time service officers. The outreach person would probably have a desk upstairs just to funnel paperwork and pick up supplies, but they would be outreach. So basically, I'm funded with my contract right now for 2.5 full-time people. So 2 full-time, 1 half-time. If we increase that half-time to full-time, and then we add a homeless outreach person, then you're looking at 1.5 times the money that I've asked for in the homeless outreach staff. Maybe a little bit more than that when you add the taxes and everything. So I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Who was that?
Yeah, this is Mike.
Hi.
Post 176. I have a concern about the homeless outreach staff. If you're sending people out on the streets to work with the veterans, don't you think it's for safety concerns? Don't you think it would be prudent to work off the buddy system?
Well, we haven't we haven't thought about that. We haven't talked much about it. We basically intend for them to be doing outreach during the daylight hours and not after dark. But of course, it's always better if you have a buddy system. But my plan is to have them work with other homeless providers like Jamie Spinelli and people who work with the homeless on a regular basis. The new director of Friends of the Carpenter, I'm sure that he has people who work directly with the homeless that we can buddy up with. So I think you're absolutely right in that we need to think about the buddy system, but I kind of thought about having this homeless outreach person kind of partner up with people who are already out there doing it.
Oh, that'd be fine then.
Yeah.
That would alleviate my concerns.
Yeah, because we have concerns too, of course. I mean, we have major insurance, but still the concern is the person or persons. And so I wouldn't send someone out there green. I would put them with someone like Jamie who knows the ropes, or there are lots of other providers out there that do it every day, and they know where the homeless veterans are, and they know how to make contact safely. So I would want the homeless outreach person, to work with them.
I think connecting them up with Officer Tyler Chavers from the Heart Team would be a good idea as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
If I can jump in here, I see the question mark for other service providers. It's your shop, and it seems like you have a good idea on what expansion would look like. I'm wondering if there might be room for hiring someone who specializes in care coordination, or a community health worker that has the capacity to actually make sure people get to their appointments, make sure they don't get overwhelmed by the whole process. I know everybody in the shop does that already to a certain extent.
Right.
But
Yeah.
having someone who specializes in ensuring people get to their appointments, even if that means taking them there. And there's a pretty low overhead if you're hiring, a community health worker type individual.
Mm-hmm. So technically, we are not allowed to transport anyone to take them to an appointment or that sort of thing. That would be something that I have to bring up with our board. If to have someone of that capacity, because we've never done anything in the mental health field. We've never had any kind of health provider at all in our building. And that would be something that the board would have to approve for us to do that.
So if it's something you're considering, I can certainly connect you up with other agencies that utilize the community health worker model.
Yes.
To cut some corners as far as having to develop a policy and procedure from scratch.
Right. And that certainly would be something that we'd be interested in looking at, Jim. I would take it up with the board first and see what their feelings are about it, because we've been like a one-stop shop, everything except healthcare. And we have partners like you and other partners that we refer people to. I don't know if we want to actually get involved in the healthcare portion. We have so many irons in the fire already. But it certainly is something that I would bring up with the board. So if you want to talk, we can talk about it, outside of this meeting. And it's certainly something that we would consider.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, it's
Okay.
it's a good way to dip your toe in the water of case management and care coordination.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe you and I can have a chat.
We already do basically case
Yeah.
management.
Yep. Yeah.
Jim, is that actually something that your agency would be willing to take on? Because what we're looking to do, this would probably just be 1 year funding. I don't want to set up an ongoing thing just because we have additional funding right now. I think once
Right.
the Treasury funding goes away, the center will hopefully kind of get back to normal, calm down a little bit. And I don't want to hire on all these people that we're not going to keep forever. But when I put other service providers, I made the offer to the VBNL, the Veteran by Name list agencies, like, does anybody have some ideas? Does anybody need some funding? We don't have to always funnel everything through the Veterans Assistance Center, which I love you, Judy, and I just don't want to overwhelm you. I don't have any qualms with anything that you provide, but if there's other ideas, just while we have a little bit of surplus funding,
right.
Maybe Swatch wants to hire a veterans care coordinator. If they're eligible veterans, it can be through any agency.
Awesome. Thank
Samantha,
you,
it's a step away from me. There's another department that handles the CHW peer workforce and the Pathways program and Health Connect. So perhaps I can point them toward you, because I like the idea of a dedicated CHW whose only job is to make sure that people at the VAC get to where they're going, get to their appointments, get help, and advocating for this sort of Venn diagram of what the folks are already doing and ensure, increasing its effectiveness. So Sam, maybe I can connect you, up with Eric McNair Scott from Swatch and see what bubbles out there.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. I'll do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's a good idea, and I totally agree with that because that's kind of been, in my opinion, my long-term vision for the center. Once it gets more space, is to have those types of services in there because that's absolutely what's needed.
Right.
Is to have it right there under the same roof. But we're throwing a lot of people at Judy, and she's stacking them on top of each other, unfortunately. But it just goes to show the dire need of having adequate space to support our veterans because the mental health piece has been missing, and we all know that so many of them, that's at the top of their list.
Right.
I mean, that's what they're suffering from. So I mean, that's the direction we certainly need to move in, but I don't see that, again, we're talking about these other people, and then we just, space is going to be the issue for a while until we can figure out what to do about another space or a building or what have you. So anyway, anybody else want to weigh in on the proposals or have any questions? I think it all sounds great, honestly. I mean, again, these are things we need. We know the need is there. It's going to continue to be there, especially as this generation ages and the generation coming in behind them. I mean, just give it time. We'll be in another war before long, unfortunately. I mean, that's the nature of the business, it seems. I hope not, but we're still got boots on the ground in Afghanistan, and once we get out of there, I'll believe it when I see it, but it'll be a long time coming. But I don't have a problem with any of these needs or asks because I know they are legitimate, and I agree with Sam. We don't want to spend all of our money right now, and then when the TRAP money is used and that goes away. I mean, there might be other opportunities, but we don't want to, come up short. And for the most part, if you've looked at the history of our fund balance, it still stays in the healthy area. Yeah. So, I mean, I think even with the addition of this, we'll be okay after COVID evens out and, we get back to full-time business. So I don't have a problem with any of it, honestly.
Kelly,
Yes.
I know we discussed a lot of the other things. I'm thinking, I mean, this is just my thought. They work so hard that we should up the wage bonus for the people working there. That's just me.
Oh, you mean increase 12? Hey, you're not going to get an argument for me. I mean, again, she's got a limited amount of people in there, and they're all doing many, many, many different tasks that are probably really outside of their scope of what their job was supposed to be to begin with. So, I mean, I think Sharon, all of them would tell you that, I mean, they got to cover down on everything. So I'm certainly not opposed if that fits within the budget and it's a smart move. I'm all for it. I mean, like I said, you're not going to get any complaint from me to increase somebody's pay, especially with the cost of everything that we're looking at now. I mean, I bought like 21 boards of lumber for deck, and that was $600.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, oh my God, what happened? I mean, I hadn't bought lumber in a long time, but everything around us is just skyrocketing, the housing, rent, everything. So, I'm not opposed to any of that. So
Try to keep them happy. They're working hard for us all the time. So yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know. Sharon's kind of suspect on some days, I don't know.
True.
Some days.
Sharon works harder than everybody put together.
I love you.
I love you too, sweetie. I know y'all are killing it. So, Sam, do we need to take a vote, right?
Yeah, and I want to be clear on what we're voting for because through this conversation, this is what I have taken down. I put a time 1.5 times the 44,000 because we talked about a full-time service officer and a full-time homeless outreach staff. So
Right.
70,000 instead of the 44,500.
Thank
and then
you.
10,000 for supplies instead of 4,000.
Okay.
And then Judy is 12 or 15,000 on the bonus. Where
15,000 would be fantastic.
course you would say that. And then the 70,000 stays, and then we'll work with Swatch to bring back another proposal maybe next month or, so right now I don't want it to be confusing based on what's on the slide. So we have 70,000, 10,000, 15,000, 70,000 is what we're voting on.
So that's
All right.
165, is that right?
Oh, you want me to do math?
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
so are we gonna vote for everything at once or just for each line item?
It's 165.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, so I would say, I mean, we could do it either or, unless somebody has any issues, which we've given everybody ample time to kind of mull it over and, get their feelings on it. So I'm gonna go for all of it as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
All right, so do I have a, let's do it formally. Do I have a motion to the numbers that Samantha just put out, which totals 165K? So that would be 70 for the first line item, which actually is 2 people, 10 for the stand down, 15 for the wage increase, and 70 as it stands for WDBA hire. Does anybody have any issues with that they want to express before we do the motion to vote and approve?
I don't want to slow things down, but I just want to ask a question about the persistence of these funds. Are we only approving them for 1 calendar year or in perpetuity? I mean, what is this approving?
It would be 1 year, and it would be an adjustment it'd be a modification to the Veterans Assistance Center contract and the WDBA contract. I can make that modification pretty easily.
And would the funds be paid out annually or excuse me, monthly, or would we make a one-time, transfer of the 165?
Oh, no, we only do cost reimbursement through the county, so they would have to bill as they incurred the costs.
Okay, so then if the goal is obviously to, and I don't disagree, I like this, but I'm just also understanding our goal is also to bring the fund down to a level that will not get us at a point where we may have our levy from the county reduced. Is this going to meet that goal?
We're still at 800,000.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely that we will be below our what we're trying to get under by September, but it will be nice if there's any questions or if the council and budget office is looking at it, we can say these are our commitments. This is the situation. This is what we've been dealing with over the last year. So we would just have to have an explanation of why we're over the levy rate.
Okay.
And I hope that they don't reduce it. But it would be really hard to get under the amount that we need to be under by September.
Any other questions?
I guess just
Did anybody want-
the risk would be that we could have our levy rate then cut and be committed to these funds, correct?
That's correct. And the levy, they can't go below a certain minimum levy rate, but right now we're actually above, they're giving us additional funding. And so that part could be cut. But we would still be able to cover all of these costs that we've, without any detriment to the center.
Sam, when would the notification about the cut be made public or be made known to us?
Well, my finance guy tracks it really carefully and closely, and he's the person who works directly with the budget office he would be the one who put forward the explanation and talk to them about that. And so that would be in the beginning of September, whenever they start that budget process. I'll be working with him and I can have him come and speak to the board too. As soon as we know anything, we'll share it.
So, but we're not at risk of a drastic cut this coming September, October, are we?
No.
Okay, so we would have the funds on hand right now to meet the commitments that we're discussing today, and just possibly in the future have the funds reduced.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, and that's if we continue to hover around $900,000. So, I mean,
Right.
I really think once we get on back on track and people are coming into the center and the center's got a handle on other things that they need to, have expenditures for. Again, the county has been very good to us. And since I've been on this board, they haven't taken any money away or changed anything. And the balance has still been fairly healthy.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm placing a lot of faith in the fact that, they're still going to do right by us, but we do have, an extraordinary amount of money just sitting in there, not committed to
Right.
anything right now. So, that was part of these proposals is we need to show them that we are committed to using the money that they're giving us. Otherwise, they will take it. So,
Yeah, well, no, agreed. I mean, our goal should be to disperse as much of the funds as possible. I
well,
just want to
it's
make sure
not
that
as
we were
much
all,
as possible, but it's certainly the overages from where we normally hover. That's kind of what we're looking at.
yeah,
So I mean, we're quite a bit over where our fund is normally at, down in the $400,000 range. So this will help us at least demonstrate that we still have the needs, and hopefully they'll leave the levy where it is, and we won't have to deal with any of that. I mean, it's a risk one way or the other, but again, they've been super good to us, and I think they'll see where we're going here, and we'll demonstrate the need very clearly for all of this and why it's needed. And it is, again, for the year. So, if something happens, we'll go back to the status quo.
agreed.
Just to throw in my 2 cents, I came into this fund when we had like a 1.3 million surplus, and the county did not take the money away. We started spending down the money, which was with them. My opinion is I don't think we should look at spending this money just to spend down to get to a reasonable amount. That's not my idea of spending money just because we have it. And it seems to me like the consequences of the COVID and all the extra funding coming into the state, trickling down to the counties, that's been to our benefit, which has caused us not to have to use as much money from our fund, which is definitely going to be used later on once the COVID money stops. So that's just my opinion.
Well, I agree, but I mean, $165,000, and we're at almost $1 million now. So, I mean, we're not spending it willy-nilly. These are issues that, Judy has brought up before, specifically related to the VSOs and CSOs. And part of the reason we haven't done a lot of that is because, again, space and some other things, but, they have made it work, and they're going to make it work. And I don't know that her staff has received increases. I don't know. I can't remember since I've been on the board. So,
Yeah, I would
I
agree
get where
with
you're coming from, though. I get it.
I'm just saying that we're not allocating this extra money just to spend down the fund. Okay, it's money that's well needed and has been needed for quite some time, especially the veteran service officers. Even before COVID, there were reports of problems with getting in to see a VSO over at the VA, and that's been going on for years. And we definitely need more VSOs in the area.
Agree.
And I know, like you said, Judy and her staff down there, they do way more than what's in their job description. So, that's definitely needed also.
Thank you.
Yep. If we end up with a surplus because we've helped the vets as much as we possibly can, then let's give that money back. But if we're still at a point where there's we can be good stewards of this money and use the money to help more vets and help them even more than we are now, I'm going to always advocate for using the money.
Exactly. Agreed. Okay. Anyone else? It's good discussion today. I mean, all valid points. And I think, you know, at heart, we're all in agreement. Again, this is not additional money. I mean, this is what we already have, but you know how it works. You know, if you don't demonstrate the need and you're not spending it, they're going to be like, okay, why do you have this much money? Well, I mean, we haven't done this before because we really haven't wanted to, you know, spend this amount of money because we didn't have it. So, you know, I guess that's where I'm coming from. And Jim, I'm total agreement. I mean, you know, this is a proposal for supporting even more veterans. And I'm like you all day long. If that's what we need to do. And again, I wish somehow, some way a building would magically appear and then, you know, we could get more space and, you know, and do this. I'm not saying we don't do it the right way, but we could do it better and more efficiently and effectively if we had a bigger building. We could accommodate, you know, the CSOs and the VSOs and the needs that we're seeing. So we're not there, unfortunately. And that's something I've been advocating for since I got on this board is they need more space, period.
Yep.
And, you know, Judy, we've talked about that numerous times. I know you guys had some stuff in storage and it burned and this, that, and the other. I mean, that's something else you might want to consider in your costs as to when you buy all this stuff, where are you going to put it?
Right. Well,
So,
we do have the space now. We have the storage. So,
okay.
because we've always gotten a lot of things from donors, and we've always had our storage facility to put those things in. So now we are constantly bringing in things from the DoD for our stand down, but unfortunately they haven't had a lot of the things that we've needed that we usually get from private donors like Costco and other Walmart and places like that. So we do have the space right now. And
Okay.
that does come out of our stand down budget. So increasing our stand down budget by $10,000 will really help us a lot in that area.
Okay.
So thank you.
So I'll put it forward again. Anybody want to make a motion to vote on it as laid out by Samantha with the increases?
Yeah, Bruce Mont makes the motion to approve this. Excuse me, makes a motion for this agenda item.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion approved.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Yes, indeed.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Now with all of that, Judy, you get to continue talking.
I think I've told you just about everything that's going on, except we are going to try to have an online auction probably late fall. We just had a small online auction of some of the baskets and things that we had accumulated when we thought we were going to get to have a gala this year. But they had, some of them had items in them that were going to expire. So we had an online auction, and I believe we raised about $3,300. Is that right, Sharon? Am I close?
You're close. It was 3,500.
Okay, great. So we are going to have another auction. We are gathering baskets and donations, and we have a new social media chair. Her name is Judith Johnson, and she is amazing. She's out there sending out Networks for Good letters. She started a newsletter for the center. She's out there talking to people all the time, trying to raise money and trying to get donations, and trying to get people to give us baskets and cards and anything that we can put in our auction in the fall. So it's nice to have someone. She's a volunteer, and she probably works 8 hours a day, 3 days a week doing all this. And she's taken over our Twitter and she's taken over our Nextdoor account. And so I no longer have to do those things. I only have to do the Facebook now. So it's really been great that I've had help from her, and I appreciate it. And if she's listening, I just want her to know that. The other thing is that the stand down is October 1st and 2nd, and it will be at the River City Church parking lot like it was last year. And this year we have had one of the people from the VA stand down, not VA, I'm sorry, Department of Labor, the stand down officials. We were so successful last year that they want to come in person and attend our stand down this year from Washington, D.C. So that's going to be nice to have officials from the Department of Labor come and see our stand down and use us as an example. So that's all Sharon and her team, Misty and the rest of the stand down people. Sharon coordinated all the logistics, and they did a fabulous job. So good that Department of Labor wants to come and see the example for themselves. And I think that's kudos to you, Sharon, and the rest of your team. So thank you,
It's definitely
everybody. Thanks to all of you for everything you guys do for us. And we're just going to keep kicking butt every day and helping as many veterans as we can. And you know, it's our honor and our privilege to do that. And you guys are making it easier for us, and we appreciate it. So thank you. And I think that's all I have to say, Kelly.
Are you sure?
I'm never sure, but yes, today I'm sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. All right. We have any old business we missed? I don't think so. New business from anybody? Open forum. Anybody on who would like to share anything?
Yeah, Kelly, I just want to let everybody know that over the past 12 months since we've had COVID, there's been a lot of people across the country that have been requesting military records from the National Record Center in St. Louis. They are currently backlogged because of working with a skeleton crew back there in St. Louis to answer all the requests that get sent in to them. So just please bear with the National Archives while they get their staffing levels back up to normal and they start getting that backlog taken care of. I realize there's a lot of people out there who want to get claims filed and stuff like that, but please be patient.
That's good to know. Thanks, Bruce. I mean, not surprising because, you know, they're affected just like the rest of us. And so I know how difficult it can be to get your records out of there at times. Been there, done that. So anybody else?
Yeah, Kelly, I just want to quickly put out that NAMI Multnomah County is doing another veteran peer support specialist training. I saw it on their website when I went there the other day. I'm not sure of the dates, but it's from home. It's 2 weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a total of 44 hours, and anybody who can do it, I just think it's so worth it. It was very intense, but I mean, so rewarding. It was a really great thing. So anybody wants to do it, just go to NAMI Multnomah County, and it's on there.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I've thought about that. I just got to get 2 weekends. And once Paddle for Life is over, then I'm open. But until August 7th, I don't have any weekends that belong to me. But everybody come out August 7th, watch us dragon boating. We currently have 6 teams registered with maybe 4 or 5 more on the hook. So it's going to be a great day of racing dragon boats. So you can all check that out and come out and support Paddle for Life. We're supporting Hope 311. Which specializes in suicide awareness and prevention for at-risk youth and lower income families. So it's a good cause. You know, she also works with veterans and those in addiction and recovery. So she's well versed in in the suicide prevention business, very good at what she does. And so we're excited to be supporting her because we know, especially with this pandemic, we've had some youth commit suicide that we know of. There are probably many more out there we're not even aware of. We always know our veterans are struggling, and those dealing with addiction certainly. So it's a good cause. So hopefully everybody can come out and join us, and maybe, just maybe, you'd want to join a dragon boat team. You never know.
Kelly, I did dragon boat race at Rose Festival, but that was quite a few years ago. And I can tell you, I know how physically exhausting it is. And I was much younger.
That doesn't count. Those boats weigh 900 pounds. Okay, that does. The smaller boats, it's not that bad. Trust me, Tanya. We're even thinking about starting a team over here, and I would like some veterans to get involved. So I will be calling you.
Is that in Ridgefield, Kelly?
Yes, ma'am. At at the kayak launch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Oh, yay. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to share? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn. No? Okay, well, before we do a motion and Michael, says no, I just want to thank everybody. Today was a little longer, but these proposals were important. So I appreciate everybody hanging in there with us to get that voted on, because at the end of the day, we're all about supporting our veterans. And if we don't have our center, we can't support our veterans very well. So thanks everybody for doing that.
And thank you from the center.
Absolutely. Always. We got your back, sister.
Absolutely.
That's right.
You do. Thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn, maybe?
Mike Gibson.
Oh, hold on. Mike Gibson. He finally figured out how to take his mute off.
I make a motion, adjourn.
Yay. Second.
Bruce Boss seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, I would hate to disappoint my fellow veterans and members of the community at large, but I will stand and be the lone dissenting voice of adjourning this meeting, especially since we accomplished so much today.
I know, right? You do have a point there. That's a good point. But we're going to go.
All right, see you guys next month.
All right,
Bye.
thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Samantha.
you. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
You too, Kelly.
Samantha, I looped in the Health Connect team. So I'm going to meet with them just to make sure we're on the right track, and then I'll connect them with you.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And if you come up with any other ideas or thoughts afterwards, let's look at it.
Absolutely.
I have never even heard of peer coordination, to embarrassingly tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm
yes,
glad.
there's a community health worker peer workforce development that's been going on